Well, what is going on, everyone? Welcome back to Kitchen Table TCG. My name is Louie. I hope you're having yourself a fantastic day. Today, we're going to take a look at 4 iconic TCGs and the iconic cards within those TCGs and compare the price of the singles, the iconic pulls of those boxes, to the price of the box and see where the values line up, and then compare the 4 different games to get an idea of what the rarity of cards does to the booster box price, and then maybe to make some assumptions and guesses on what might be overvalued or undervalued. But really the idea here is just to have some fun and compare to this. This is not financial advice or anything like that. So we're going to take a look at Pokemon and the Charizard. We're going to take a look at Magic the Gathering and the Black Lotus. We're going to take a look at Flesh and Blood with the Heart of Yandel and Eye of Ophidia. And we're going to take a look at Metazoo with the Mothman, and we're going to evaluate this together. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be using the box price, and then we're going to use the graded 9 price to kind of dictate what the value is of the card. I did this because I have to have some sort of standard or some sort of, variable that can't change, condition or that kind of thing. So graded 9 is going to be the idea. The idea is kind of you pull a card out of a pack. What could you expect it to be? And that's going to be PSA for Pokemon and Metazoo, and it's going to be BGS for Flesh and Blood and Magic the Gathering. So let's take a look at what we did. We'll hop into Pokemon first, and I'll work our way down our list on this. So Pokemon with the Charizard, for those of you who don't know, for base set, first edition, shadowless, and unlimited, there were 15 different holos in the set. Machamp was the 16th, but it wasn't in the booster packs. There were 15 holos in the set, and in each box you had a 1 in 3, basically 1 in every 3 packs you would get a holo, which made 12 holos per box, which makes the pull rate for any individual card about 0.8 per box, or about 80% chance at pulling the card in the box. So that makes the Charizard about a 0.8 pull rate per box. Now base set second edition added 5 additional holos to the mix. So now there were 20 holos, you still had 12 holo pull slots in your box, and that makes it 0.6 per box, or a 60% chance at hitting the Charizard in a base set second edition box. So let's take a look at how that all fleshes out as we look at the box prices. Now these box prices are incredibly hard to figure out on eBay, on TCG Player, anything like that. Shout out to Pokezoo, who helped me kind of give me some background information on what's happening behind the scenes in the secondary market for this. And so basically I'm definitely aware of a base set second edition box that sold this week for $6,500. I actually was offered that box. I did not end up purchasing it. But that box was at $6,500. A base set unlimited box is about $13,000 right now. A base set shadowless box is about $27,000 right now. And then if you can get your hands, if your name's Logan Paul, and you can get your hands on a first edition Charizard or a first edition base set box, you're sitting about $350,000. So how does that compare then to the price of the singles, which are much easier to figure out? The price of the singles of Charizard is much easier to figure out. A PSA 9 Charizard first edition recently sold for $28,000. You saw there was a thin stamped one that sold 3 months ago for $41,000. A couple others that sold for $32,000, but most recent one is $28,000 for this PSA 9 on eBay. Meanwhile, on the other side of things, you've got the shadowless one that's selling for about $6,000, give or take, $500 either side. We're going to track that at $5,600. Then the regular unlimited version of Charizard, the one that we all kind of know and love, and you probably had when you were a kid, and a PSA 9 version is selling for about $1,200, and then your second edition is selling for about $750. So now what that does is we take those prices and we kind of multiply it here by the pull rate per box, and that gives us a price that the single adds per box in kind of EV, and that gives us something that we can then compare to the box price. So Charizard in first edition makes up 6.4% of the value of the box price. That's what this number does right here. And going down the line, you have 6.4% on first edition, 16% on shadowless, 7.4% on base set unlimited, and just under 7%, about 6.5% on the base set second edition. So from here, what you can garner is like, man, maybe the Shadowless Charizard is a little bit overvalued right now if you compare it to the other Charizards. But there are other factors. Obviously, getting a base set Shadowless box is hard to figure out how to open one of those because it's not labeled. There's a lot of other things to add into that mix. But on average, your price without the outlier would be about 7% of the percentage. So then now we can compare. The idea is going to be to compare these numbers with the other games to see what's happening and what's going on in the market of some of these newer games too. Taking a look at Magic the Gathering, the red numbers are ones that are harder for me to figure out. There's very, very few alpha sold listings. Obviously, an alpha box is incredibly hard to figure out. But I'm going to go ahead and show you how I got there. Shout out to Edwin, the Magic Engineer, for helping me kind of get some of these numbers and kind of go back and forth. Obviously, things change very high at especially the graded card prices. We'll talk about some of that stuff. But essentially, in Magic the Gathering, for the beta for Black Lotus and for that first print run, a beta booster box has 36 packs, and the print sheet for the rare sheet had it was 11 by 11, so there was 121 cards. 5 of those rare slots, though, were island cards. So you subtract that, and that makes 116 rares in the sheet. And then you have 36 packs that you are opening. So you divide that, and that produces a 31% chance of hitting the Black Lotus in a beta box. And that is hypothetically the same for Unlimited. Now, Alpha had some issues. There was not a volcanic island, so I took kind of one away, made it a little bit easier for you to get a Black Lotus in an Alpha pack. But the beta to the Unlimited was it was the same. So that's how you come up with your pull rate for the box here. I guess that should technically be green because I am confident in that, but we won't solve that now. So now let's take a look at how we got to the box prices. And this is incredibly difficult. These are going to be all over the place all the time. I'm going to share with you how I got there. I would love to hear your comments on any of this stuff in the comment section. If you have some better details to share with me, and we can kind of change this up and come back to it in the future. But here's where we came up with this stuff for the beta side of things. On beta, there was a recent auction on Heritage Auctions at the Orlando Collecticon, of which they did do a beta box break, and the average kind of sold listing of these packs was about $6,500. If you, oops, it signed me out, but you just saw that it was $6,500 before, or 66. It just signed me out. That's unfortunate, but that was the average price sold for those things. And so that kind of gives you a 36 pack sitting about $234,000. All right. So alpha is a lot more difficult. Obviously, you're not going to be able to find yourself an alpha box anywhere. But recently there was a alpha pack that did sell. It's not that recent. November 6th, 2021, an alpha pack sold for $21,600. If you were able to come across 36 of those and you multiply that out, the price would be around $900,000, which is what I labeled there. And then if you take a look at the unlimited boxes, this was in November of 2021, a unlimited box sold for $168,000. And then I also found a couple of packs of unlimited that were around 4,400. So I kind of thought maybe 165, 175,000. But then through talking with a couple other people, they kind of felt like the market was more at around 150,000, 145,000 around there. So basically they were like, it would be about half the value, a little bit more maybe than the beta. So again, we're just kind of guessing at the prices here. This is supposed to be a fun exercise to kind of take a look at what the market data says on these things. So now we can take a look though at what the Black Lotuses are selling for, and then we can do some comparisons. So here's what we know recently on sold listings of Black Lotuses in graded 9. The Unlimited Lotus sold for $3,000 on eBay on June 17th. So that's, or sorry, I said 3, I meant 30. Sold for $30,000 on June 17th. And then we had a beta one that sold for $68,000 on December 20th of 2021. Again, they're few and far between on these sales. And we have not seen an alpha Black Lotus sell recently in a BGS9, at least not publicly that I am aware of, or privately that I'm aware of. So here's how I came up with this $140,000 number. And that is because we did see a BGS 7.5 Alpha Lotus sell for $86,000. So because we have a Alpha PSA, because we have an Alpha BGS 7, we can, or 7.5, we can compare it to other BGS 7.5s that have sold, and then kind of take an idea of what the conversion would be from a 7.5 to a 9. So we had a 7.5 beta Lotus sell for $42,000. So if we take a look here and we take that beta 7.5 and that alpha 7.5, and then we compare the beta to the BGS 9 Black Lotus that sold, we get a conversion of 1.6 or 161%. And then if we multiply the 86 by the 161%, that gives us about $140,000 for the graded BGS 9 Alpha Lotus. Now, that may be too low, that may be too high. I'm just showing you how I got that number. I was told that there was a either PSA, I'm guessing it was a BGS. Yeah, it was a BGS, sorry. There was a BGS 10 Alpha Black Lotus that sold for $500,000, and they have heard, and it is unconfirmed, that the person who purchased that later sold it for $700,000, and that the next guy sold it for $1 million. So who knows what's actually true or what's actually going on, but a BGS 10 Lotus could be anywhere between $500,000 and $1 million. But again, the multiplier for 9 to 10 is probably pretty significant, and that would make a lot of sense. But keep in mind when you're using these prices. So if you then take all that stuff out into the percentages and the pull rates of these cards, that gets you here the price per box. The Lotus is adding $50,000 to the box price of a Alpha box. The Beta Lotus is adding $21,000 to the box price of the Beta box, and the Unlimited is adding $9,300 to the box price of an unlimited box. So if you percentage that out, then your percentages for the cards are 5%, 9%, and 6%, with the 9%, in my opinion, being the most the most accurate with the data that we have recently. The average price of those then, if you take the average, is sitting at 7%, which is incredible because that's pretty similar to the percentages that we're seeing with the Charizard other than the Shadowless one. I thought that was super interesting. All right, let's take a look at Flesh and Blood then and how that all compares. The Heart of Fyendel in Alpha, the pull rate that people kind of assume and kind of like, the community has kind of agreed upon, we don't have anything official from LSS, is 1 in 40 boxes, making it 0.025 Heart of Fyendels per box that you open, or a 2.5% chance at hitting the Heart of Fyendel in a box. Your box prices, I'm tracking at about $3,000 right now. Let me pull that up for you. About $3,000, anywhere up to $3,500, anywhere down to $2,900. And then the the Heart of Fyendel sold listings. So we have a 9.5 here that sold for $17,000. We have another 9.5 that's like a pop. I think there's only 4 Lotuses with this. The 9.5 plus, it has 2 10s. So that one was incredibly more rare. It sold on the same day. There's been a couple other sales around $16,000 for 9.5s. I'm aware of a couple sales of 9s as well, but I'm trying to show you the public ones. And so putting in about a 9, sitting around $10,000 that's roughly where the 9 is. Take a look at the Eye of Ophidia and the box prices for Arcane Rising. You're sitting about $3,000 for 2 here, or you had another one sell for $1,400, so about $1,500 per box. And then looking at the sold listings of an Eye, you're sitting around $5,500 for a raw one. This one was the BGS 9 that sold for $5,800, and then it's a whole month later, so this is actually more accurate data. So I'm just splitting the gap there at $5,500 for the Eye. So if you calculate all that stuff out with the pull rates, this is the price per box that it's adding to the EV and all that kind of stuff. And then if you take the percentage of the box and calculate it, it's 8.3% of the box, or 9.17% of the box that adds. So slightly higher percentage of the box than your Lotus or your Charizard is as you look into the pull rates. Now let's finish up with Metazoo, and we'll kind of then talk about my opinions on these things. Metazoo Kickstarter boxes are selling for about $4,000. I'm seeing a lot more on Facebook sell for about $4,000, between $4,500 and $4,000. You had this weird non-alternating box that sold for $12,000 this week. So I'm going to use $4,000 to kind of take an idea where the market is. And then the Mothman recently sold for $1,400 in a PSA 9, and this is for the full holo version. And then for first edition, the non-Kickstarter, your boxes are sitting about $550, both on eBay and Facebook. And then, oops, that's not it. I guess I don't have the. Do I have one? Yeah, there it is. There's a PSA 9 that sold for about $225. So that's kind of where we're using the numbers for. And if you take a look and you multiply that out, the pull rate for a Mothman is sitting here. The kind of official pull rate that they have given us is that you get about 12 holo gold cards per box. There are 36 packs. That makes your pull rate. There are, if you want to take a look at the number of holos you have in holo gold, there are 30. Yeah, there are 39 holos. Which makes your pull rate about 0.3 or 30% of the Kickstarter boxes should have a Mothman in them. Or if you want to calculate that out, you have 0.3 Mothmen per box. So if you calculate all that out, you have 420 or 6750, and then that gives you a 10.5% chance, or sorry, 10.5% of the box made up by the chase card, or 12.27% of the box made up by the chase card in those sets. So significantly higher than that 7% average of the Charizard and the Black Lotus, but a little bit higher too than the Flesh and Blood. Super interesting numbers, and you can do with these whatever you want to do with them. And I'm very, very curious to hear, what do you do with those numbers? When you see that stuff, what does it tell you? I'm very curious to hear from you what that says. Let me know in the comment section below. Here's what it tells me, is that it surprised me at how not rare these cards are in their pulls. How much easier it is for you to pull. I guess it's not considerably easier for the Mothman than Magic in the Lotus, but it's considerably easier to pull a Charizard than it is the Lotus, and it's way easier. It's 10 times easier for you to pull a Black Lotus than it is to pull a Heart or an Eye. And it makes me wonder what that does and why these new games made it so difficult to pull their stuff. And if that's where you get some of this higher percentage of the box equaling, because the people who do get lucky to pull it then don't want to sell the card for a little bit, and so then the prices go up. It's super interesting to see, and it makes you just really question, how did these cards become the iconic cards? It wasn't some sort of artificial thing where they just made them more rare. The pull rate is equal in the box. It just kind of happened, and that's super interesting to see. And I think time will tell if this newer wave, this newer age of making cards harder to pull in the boxes actually holds true. If that makes things iconic. I think obviously it'll always be the most expensive card, but will always be the most iconic card. I've kind of said on the channel a few times, I think that, if you compare the Heart of Fiendel to the Tunic, I think the Tunic has a potential long term to be more iconic to the game of Flesh and Blood, because it is used so much more, it is seen so much more. That's definitely something that I've shared on the channel, and it's just interesting to see those pull rates be different. It was really interesting to see these be so closely connected to the 7% window. Maybe the beta one is the most accurate, and so then it's more like 9%, but it is super interesting to see that number be around there, and honestly to see most of the games be pretty similar. Metazoo a little bit of a higher percentage, and I don't know if that's good or bad. I don't really know what to do with the information. Again, I'm super curious to hear from you. What I was surprised about was that some of these numbers weren't incredibly higher. When I originally thought about doing this, I thought we would see a much bigger discrepancy in these percentages, and we did not see that. So that was really encouraging to see. It kind of tells me that you can figure out the price of these hearts are really hard to find. The hearts and the eyes and the Mothmans don't sell that much either. that often, although those are a lot. There's a lot more Mothmen than there are Hearts of Fiendel. But it kind of tells me that if you don't know what the prices are, you really can trust the box prices because they're so significant in that. That's another thing that it tells me. But anyway, curious to hear your comments in the comment section. Let me know what you think about the data here and about what you can take away from it. And I hope that you will remember to continue to have fun in this trading card hobby and not take it too seriously. And may you someday pull a Black Lotus out of an alpha pack, or may you someday pull a Heart of Fiendel out of an alpha pack, or a Charizard out of your favorite thing. Anyway, hope you have yourself a great day. Remember to be kind to the people around you. If you like content like this, make sure you hit subscribe.